What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. As I sit here right now, we are exactly 14 days, 2 weeks out from the NFL Draft. I've been covering Pittsburgh all offseason, talking about their free agents, who they've lost, who they've picked up, what positions they should be looking at for the draft, and profiling certain players. I've been doing a segment on this channel called Should Pittsburgh Draft? And I'm talking about specific players who potentially actually could be there at pick 20 and how intriguing they are and whether or not Pittsburgh should kind of change their strategy and go after certain people. Now, I have not posted my number one kind of dream guy in this draft yet, and I have not done my mock drafts yet. I think at some point next week, I'm going to do my top 3 mock drafts from my favorite possible draft, my dream draft, down to my kind of lesser favorite draft, but all possible drafts Pittsburgh could do to fill the holes on their roster. Last week, if you saw my last video, I posted about Cooper DeJean at cornerback. Now, corner is obviously a need that Pittsburgh needs one, if not 2 guys added to the roster. I think we should definitely add somebody, but going after corner in the draft before things like offensive tackle and center seem counterintuitive and harmful, considering how deep corner is in this draft. That being said, I talked about Cooper DeJean being my favorite corner prospect in this draft and how if he's there at 20, there are some potential scheme fits and reasons that we could look at him as a first round pick. Now I want to look at offensive tackle. Obviously, in my opinion and a lot of yours, we need offensive line twice in this draft. We need at least 1 tackle and at least 1 center. I think personally, and we'll get to this in my next video, I'm cutting 2 in a row here back to back. Talking next about center, but today I want to talk about tackle. And I think that of these two, I think center is a bit bigger need because number one, we currently have 2 tackles on our roster that can be our starting tackles. We've got Broderick Jones, we've got Dan Moore. Dan Moore is not preferable. We don't really necessarily want to see Dan Moore as the starter all season, but he has done it for several years before. He has had some shining moments there, and he can be the starter if need be. Can Nate Herbig be the starter at center if need be? I don't know if that's necessarily true. We feel more comfortable with starting Dan Moore at tackle than we do starting Herbig at center. So I think a center is a bigger need right now than tackle. That being said, if there is a certain guy at tackle in the first round, is it worth getting that guy in the first round at pick 20? Like taking trades away, no trade ups, no trade backs. If we're sitting there at 20 and we're looking at guys who may possibly be there, if this guy falls to us, do we go for it? This particular video is about Amarius Mims, the short-time starter, but very impressive offensive tackle out of Georgia. Quick profile on Amarius Mims. He is 6'7", 340 pounds. In 2023, he had 6 starts in the 7 games he played in. And last year, this past season up into 2024, he played in 14 games overall. But he did come off of an injury. He got injured. I think I might have reversed those numbers. But he wound up getting hurt last year and playing in only a handful of games. Started the season, got hurt pretty early, came back, and played in the last 3 games, which were the playoff and then bowl games, where he was incredibly impressive. So very short tape on him as far as last year, but the tape was so impressive, and the level of his play versus the level of high-end opponents, the best teams in the country that he played against, big opponents, big-time play in big-time games, that makes you think he could really be someone to look at 20. And I think he is worth looking at. Now, again, I value center at 20, not just because of the need, but also because there are less great centers than there are great tackles in this draft. We can wind up with a good to great tackle in the 2nd or even 3rd round, versus if you pass on a center in the 1st round, the hopes of getting one of the top 3 centers, which we have to get in this draft, there are 2, maybe 3 elite centers in this draft where there are many more good tackles. So there are less centers to go around, and they could go earlier than some of these tackles. But Mims has such a high upside. I mean, the dude he's more of a pass blocker than a run blocker. He struggles a little more in run blocking. But again, he's got really, really good hands. Strong foot placement, really strong hands for a guy that size. He's a freakish athlete for a guy that size. Very much in the vein of Broderick Jones. People are talking about bringing the Georgia line to Pittsburgh. We got Broderick last year. There's a solid chance we could get Amarius Mims this year. And then maybe even get Cedric Van Pran-Granger in the third or fourth round, probably third round, as our center. Bringing the Georgia line to Pittsburgh. Now, taking Van Pran-Granger out of it because I don't really want him in this draft. But I could see Amarius Mims fitting. You pair the two tackles from Georgia together, Broderick on one side, going back to his natural side, and then Amarius Mims here. You've got two guys who know each other, played on the same team already, have that offensive line chemistry, which is super important, and you have two gigantic guys, enormous, wide, big guys who are also physical athletes, super athletic for guys their size. I love the hand placement. I love the stability on his feet that Mims shows. I love the overall pass blocking that I've seen and the recovery from Amarius Mims. When Mims does get beat on an angle or on a play, he recovers fast and resets his body fast, which is a rare talent for tackles in this draft. The other two guys that you could consider in the first round at tackle are Talisi Fuaga and J.C. Latham. Now, I think all three of these guys show upside, and all three of these guys are worth considering in this draft. If you feel confident enough, because you're probably going to miss on one of those centers by the second pick, if not all three. If you're confident that you could land either Jackson Powers-Johnson, Zach Frazier, or Graham Barton in the second round, and you have one of these top three tackles sitting there for you, I think it's worth at least looking at and considering. Again, I value tackle as the second highest priority in this draft. But if one of these three guys is sitting there and you're confident you can get one of those three centers in the second round, it's worth looking at. Mims has probably the highest upside. He has the least amount of tape on him because he only played those handful of games last year. But as I reverse the numbers here. But he played again in big games, in big moments against big talent, and played amazingly. This guy's got the highest upside and probably the best kind of physical measurables in this draft. Talisi Fuaga is moving people. He's probably got maybe the best pass protection out of the three in this draft, and he's got just the biggest, most physical play, the biggest stature, the most physical, the most pushing guys off the line Fuaga has. And J.C. Latham, in my opinion, from Alabama, if he falls to 20, I think even more so than Mims, I would prioritize him as a tackle. If we're going to go for a tackle in the first round, Latham and then Mims and then Fuaga for me, because Latham has the most overall well-rounded game. I think he is pro-ready on day one. I think he needs the least development. I think he played for the most pro-ready system in Alabama, and I think he's the most, again, well-rounded, best overall player at that spot. I think someone like Joe Alt's going to go before 20, obviously. But yes, if you get a chance at a tackle, the three guys you should consider taking over a center in the first round in this order. Latham first, Amarius Mims second, and Fuaga third. I just profiled Mims here because he's been the most talked about and linked to Pittsburgh with the Georgia connection and all that. So what do you guys think about that? Do you guys still go center in the first round no matter what? Or if one of these three guys, Latham, Mims, or Fuaga, are there, do you heavily consider going tackle first and going center second? And if so, do you label them the way I do, Latham, Mims, Fuaga, or do you have one of those other guys prioritized higher? Is there somebody else that could be there at 20 at tackle that I'm missing? Tell me in the comments below. Let's please talk about this. Give me your details. What do you think? Which tackles belong here at 20? Who's worth taking? And are any of them worth taking over center? Tell me in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Go check out the Cooper DeJean video. Check out this video. And now I'm going to go right now, immediately, and cut a video on the center position. So if you guys want to hear my thoughts at center, more fleshed out and further, and profiling some guys, I'm doing the center video next. So come back and check that one out as well. I'll see you guys soon.